Hello, everybody, and welcome to Riftbound Ramblings. I'm your host, Barrett, and happy release weekend for Riftbound Set 1 Origins, at least for English, around the globe. And yes, that means I'm going to celebrate by releasing the second half of this kind of video I was doing, which is budget upgrades to pre-constructed decks. The last video I did Proving Grounds characters. You're welcome to check that one out if you want to look at those kind of decks. But today we are going to be doing the starter decks. And I don't normally kick off my videos this way, but if you do like the channel, if you do like videos like this, subscribe, give a thumbs up, comment down below if you agree or disagree with me. I don't really plan on doing a lot of videos like this, as I mainly want to focus on news and updates for the game, but I'll probably do this maybe every set release. So without further ado, let's kick things off with the Jinx deck. So over on the right, we've got all the cards that are within the Jinx deck that you at home have purchased, and all the battlefields corresponding. So we're going to kick off with the battlefields. I think Zon Warrens and Reaver's Row are good for this deck because we are playing an aggressive pile. Targon's Peak is not bad for wanting to do that, but I think it just gives too much of a benefit to your opponent. So I think we want to replace this with something like Arena's Greatest. It's just the bread and butter for aggro decks right now. The game has got to go at a fast pace, and it's also just really good if you think you're going to play against a slower deck, if you think they're going to bring out one of the battlefields that extends the game's duration, basically. I recommend just taking over take out Targon's Peak, and this one will be a good substitute. As for commons and uncommons that I recommend to put into this deck, these are just kind of the bread and butter good ones for not just aggro decks, but Chaos and Fury domain decks in general. The biggest two I probably would look at are Noxus Hopeful, Cleaves, and Ride the Winds. I think stacked decks are good. Of course, this card replaces itself, helps you find some better stuff, but it is an uncommon, and you don't necessarily need it. It just kind of helps make your deck a little bit more consistent. Cards I recommend to cut, honestly, it's just going to be a lot of this top end. I think things like Rasa, Magma Worm, Brazen Buccaneer, and even the undercover agents are just really not what we're looking for. We want to put a bunch of little mini dudes on the board and accumulate points as quickly as possible, and then we just kind of overwhelm our opponent with things like Vise. So, that being said, for the rares, I do recommend getting a hold of more copies of Vi, as there's only one inside of the deck. And I'd even recommend, again, more small units to bring in are things like Teemos, the Scout one specifically, because you can play these and hide them at battlefields you've taken over. And even if your opponent doesn't like threaten to beat you, you can flip it over, have another unit on the battlefield, and then hide another one. And hiding doesn't cost you actual like tapping of energy or tapping of runes. It makes you recycle them. Cards I recommend to still take out to fill their kind of slots are even things like the Flame Chompers. We would rather be using our power for cards like Teemo Scout than using them for things like Flame Chompers. But I think we can keep a lot of the like Cemetery Attendants. I even think the Scrap Heaps are obviously very good. And even the Get Exciteds are fine for removal. But we could probably get rid of even things like the Raging Souls, even though they're very good in our deck when just kind of fit in for these rares. But that's going to be it for the Jinx deck. We're going to move on right along into Lee Sin. Now, Lee Sin is going to look a little familiar, very much like the Jinx deck. Probably looks like Annie because they share domains. This one might look pretty similar to our upgrades that we did for Master Yi on our previous video. Battlefield-wise, I do think we kind of want to shift on what this deck is doing. So again, Targon's Peak is fine, and Monastery of Harana is pretty good. But I do think we're going to speed up this deck a little bit. We're going to make it a little bit more aggressive, and we want to probably get rid of Monastery of Harana because it's a buff spender, and we would rather probably create more buff creators. So take out Monastery of Harana, take out Targon's Peak. I recommend the Arena's Greatest, and then also I recommend Navori Fighting Pit. Again, this helps us create more benefits for holding points, which is what our domains are really good at doing, and it creates more buffs instead of spending them, like on the Monastery. As for commons, we're going to kind of go with a lot of tried and true ones for these two domains together, except for the fact that we're doing the buff strategy, and we're going to try and speed this deck up a little bit. So Defy and On Guard are kind of tried and true if you have Calm Domain, and this deck doesn't come with them, so we want to try and fit room in them. I recommend taking out Mask of Foresight. I don't think we care about the challenges. Take the Mistfall out. Take out these Paka Cubs. We just don't want them. And Stand United is good, but we would rather have the On Guards. So think about those kind of copies of cards. Meanwhile, we need things like Cythria to generate more buffs for us, and we need things like Confront to keep up an aggressive game plan, essentially giving a lot of these weaker units that we want in our deck still to come in ready, draw this as a new card, and we can swing right away. So I think we want to mainly focus on taking out a lot of this top end. So the Stormclaw Earth Signs and the Mountain Drakes, we don't really need them. Bilgewater Bully is fine. Udyr is also fine. Wizened Elder is okay, but paying 4 for it is not as good. We would rather have things like Wildclaw Shaman. Again, take out these pocket clubs. And then if you're still running out of room, I think it's okay to remove things like Wielder of Water as well. It's still a good card, but we would rather try and win by mass aggression little guys than defending alone. That's what Master Yi excels in, and we're not Master Yi. For the rares, though, I do recommend the exact same two I did for Master Yi. It's just about stickiness on the board and high-value conquering abilities with things like Kiana. So sticking on the board, Zonia's Hourglass are really good. You get to recall your unit instead of it dying, which is really nice. And then, of course, with Kiana, it's just really good because it has Deflect. And we can, when we conquer, we can either pick 2 different avenues, which is drawing cards or channeling runes. Typically, we're drawing cards. So these are the 2 that I recommend. And again, like I said, a lot of this top end we don't really want, and then some of that weird middle ground we don't really want as well. I will go ahead and point out this deck only comes with 2 charms. It's okay to play a third one. I'd honestly probably recommend it. And then that's really about it. You could even maybe find room for another Udyr, because again, we care about generating more buffs with things like Cythrias. It's okay to put in a couple of spenders because we took out the battlefield. That's a spender. Moving on to our last deck today, we have Viktor. Again, because this shares 2 domains with Lux, it might look a little similar, but the reality is that this deck and Lux are very, very different. But there are some key cards here that we're missing for Viktor to excel in a real competitive space, because he probably is one of the better decks of these 3. That being said, with the battlefields, we really do want to play Grand Plaza and Trifarian War Camp. Altar of Unity is the one that we just really don't want, and so I think we're just going to replace that. Yeah, you guessed it. We're going to turn this into an aggro deck. So we're going to put in Arena's Greatest, as I realize this is the 3rd time I've said that. And yeah, we just don't really care about giving our opponent potentially more recruits of their own. But we are really good at winning with Grand Plaza. We are playing a bunch of units, so Trifarian War Camp is usually better for us. But we are going to make this an aggro deck, so Arena's Greatest is a good idea. Moving on to the commons, again, this deck needs a little bit of help because we want to create more guys for even things like our Grand Plaza Alt WinCon to pull off. So basically everything I've picked here are cards that make more cards that are just not in this deck. So Faithful Manufacturer and Vanguard Captain are commons. They make more recruits. We need that. And Sprite Mother and Spectral Matron are uncommons, and they give us more units either from our discard pile or things like Sprite temporary tokens, which, again, just keep up the aggression. Biggest things to get rid of here in this deck, it's like the Sprite Calls are not great. The Cruel Patrons are good because he gives us 6 might, but it kills off our units, and we would rather have a bunch of little guys. Because we're going to keep things like Grand Stratagem. Get rid of the Wraith of Echoes. Honestly, the Jeweled Colossus are fine. Get rid of the Heimerdinger. We don't want it. And get rid of these Eager Apprentice. They're good. We don't need the benefit of reducing our spells. We want more dudes. Other than that, the Soaring Scouts are great. The Cold of the Weeks are great. You know, smoke screens are great, but get rid of these Orb of Regrets and get rid of these mushroom pouches because we need to make room for some rares that we recommend, which again are all about helping us win the game. Machine Evangel, when it dies, you get more recruits, which helps you keep up that win con if Grand Plaza is in play. And of course, Thousand-Tailed Watcher is really, really good value for when our opponent has larger units. We get even more mileage out of our recruits, especially when things like Altar of Unity are in play. And of course, it's an accelerator, so we like that kind of stuff. So yes, we did remove some of the top end on things like Cruel Patron, but we're going to replace it with some 5 and 7 drops, and we're going to be playing more low-costed units that create more low-costed units, of course. But that's really the goal. I'll also point out for commons and uncommons, things like Hidden Blade and Stupefy and Smokescreen are great cards that you're more than welcome to get more copies of and put into the deck. I think you can just start cutting some of the like Jeweled Colossuses or even the back-to-backs, as I just don't really think you need them. Also, I don't dislike this Viktor as our champion unit, but another choice rare is you could just get 1 more copy, but go get the Order Domain one. I think he is pretty good and probably better for this deck. But that is going to sum up today's video. If you like stuff like this, of course, like the video and comment down below if you agree or disagree with some of the choices. Again, these are meant to be budget options, not anything like making these into top tier competitive decks, which you can. You can go find those other stuff, but those are decks that are going to have things, like epics in them, not just the rares. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video like this one. I'm mainly a news and updates channel, and as we have officially got a release this weekend, I'm very, very excited to potentially start getting some spoilers for set 2, and I'm also excited to get more information as people have cards in their hand and they will play in more competitive events. But thanks so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.